Hey guys, welcome to today's Vehicle Visionary. Today I'm at Holmes Honda here in Shreveport, Louisiana, and my friends here at the dealership have loaned me this 2021 model of the Honda Passport Sport. And you might be wondering about the title. It says 2021/2022, and why exactly would I have it labeled that way or written that way? Well, there's no significant changes coming for 2022. In fact, the full refresh comes likely in 2023 based on research, based on talking to people here at the dealership. And that means that I don't have to worry about the YouTube correction Nazis having a whole bunch of fuel to work with down in the comments section of this video saying, that's not right, it's going to get a refresh in 2022. So, what was new for 2021? Why is this still a contender? Well, here's what changed for the model year. An 8-inch touchscreen is standard on all trim levels, as is Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. Also, you will find ample cargo space, some very interesting little nooks and crannies and places that Honda has for you to store different things. The interior space is not only spacious for driver and passengers, but also very comfortable. And as is something I commonly do, I will list a partial list of the safety features you will find on this particular model on the screen. And if you want to see the full list of safety features and know more about this exact Honda Passport Sport, check out the link down in the description of the video to the Holmes Honda website. And if you come and buy this model, make sure to tell whoever you buy it from that you found out about it from Tom at Vehicle Visionary. So let's talk a little bit about overall styling. You're going to notice that it looks kind of like a Honda Ridgeline, or maybe the Honda Ridgeline kind of looked like the Honda Passport, at least previously until 2021. That has changed, as from the windshield forward, the Ridgeline has a completely different look now. But I think this look really fits the Passport. A little bit of a sloped line here to the hood. I like the character lines all the way across. Of course, you're going to see the black accent trim with the grille, with the bumper, with the trim all the way around the vehicle. But one thing that you definitely won't have a problem with, of course, is seeing at night. LED headlights and LED fog lights down here on the lower portion of the bumper, just to the inside of the blinkers there. And I'll give you a good look on the screen as to what that looks like as best as I can, kind of the advantage of an overcast day. Now, one thing people might talk about in the segment into which the Passport fits is horsepower. Does it have enough? Let's open the hood and find out. Getting down the road, whether you're driving alone, whether you got a full load of passengers and cargo, will not be a problem because of the 3.5-liter V6 found under the hood. 280 horsepower, 262 pound-feet of torque. Not hurting in that area, that's for sure. And gas mileage still rather impressive. 20 miles per gallon estimated city, 25 out on the highway, and a combined total, according to Honda, of 22 miles per gallon. Now, you might notice that the hood's a little bit higher than maybe it would normally be. You actually have a couple of different areas to mount the stand for the hood, and I just decided to put it in the area where it would be mounted if you brought it in for an oil change or whatever the case may be for service. But hey, if you ever wanted to go and show off your nice and clean Passport Sport, or whatever trim level you have at Cars and Coffee or something like that, well, that might actually be pretty cool to use that. Yes, I realize people aren't going to be gawking under the hood, just having a little fun there. And what about transmission? 9-speed automatic. You also have variable cylinder management to help with the gas mileage as well. And as I mentioned earlier, of course, you're going to have that black trim that goes all the way down the side of the vehicle and around the back with the rear bumper, black mirrors, black window trim, and of course you've got the tint here, privacy glass in the rear, and actually factory tint here on the side windows as well on the front for the driver and passenger. Those are 20-inch wheels. Of course, I don't know that it would look sporty without having the black wheels. Tell me down in the comments, what would you prefer? A black wheel, a chrome wheel, or maybe something else? You also have smart entry, and part of that is going to be the little button right here on the driver and passenger front door handles. You can push that to lock and or unlock the vehicle as long as you have the remote on your person. And just to show you what you have here with the remote, You've got all the features and functionality you would expect there. Now, this being the sport trim level, you will notice the button that is there for the rear liftgate. While this doesn't have a power rear liftgate on it, if it did, obviously, you could use that button to open and or close that. And just while I'm on the subject of that particular thing, I had somebody ask me one time how to open their rear liftgate. They said it was stuck because I had shown how to use the kick feature. Well, here's one thing to think about. If you don't see the sticker on your rear liftgate back there on the exterior, that means you likely don't have that feature. So know your trim levels. I talked about that a little bit earlier in the video, just so you would know. And one more thing that someone always asks about if I don't mention it. Is there a turn signal indicator built into these side view mirrors? Not on the sport trim level. And here on the rear, of course, you're going to find more of that great Honda styling. Of course, you got the shark fin antenna up there, the rear roof spoiler right here, and that's not just cosmetic. That actually helps to channel air over this rear window when you're driving down the road to keep it from getting dirty. But of course, well, that can still happen, obviously, when the vehicle is sitting still. And if you need to deal with that, of course, you've got the rear window wiper right here. And while this isn't a power lift gate, it is dampened where it's very easy to open and close, and you do have some nice features back here. I'll put the numbers on the screen as far as cargo and even towing, depending on your configuration and what you want to do. You do have a protective mat here that is removable for your rear cargo area, so you can keep your carpet nice and clean. But like I say, you can take that out if you want to. Cargo space under the floor. And good news, because I know a lot of you ask, if I don't bring this up, kind of like with the turn signal indicator in the side view mirrors, does it have a spare tire or a tire repair kit? Good news, guys, you will find a spare tire here under the kind of front section underneath the floor right here. I'm showing you that on the screen. And of course, you can maximize your cargo space very easily. Two different options for, well, actually that would be four. Two different options for doing that. Let's say that correctly. Or maybe it could be four because you have two on each side. Okay, maybe that's not so bad. But you've got a button right here to lower the rear seats if you want to use that on each side, or there is a latch on the side of the seats themselves that will do the same thing. Quite a bit of space back here, but I also mentioned that there was a lot of interior space for driver and passenger. Let's take a look when we hop into the back seat. One of the interesting features that I found here in the Passport has to do with the grab handles that are right up here at all four doors. It used to be that when you grabbed one of those, if you just let go of it, you would basically hear it kind of go and thud against the roof, kind of like that. Well, now they're actually dampened. Just an interesting little tidbit of information that I personally found interesting as a gearhead liking to know how things operate. Now, the back seat here is rather comfortable, I must say. And while the driver's seat is somewhat further forward than it might be for a lot of people, I like to be a little closer to the steering wheel and just don't have a lot of reach in my arms like that to deal with. And that's really my racing background that causes that. But I obviously have a ton of space, but even if the seat was further back, I'm still going to have a ton of space. I can almost stretch my legs all the way out as it is right here. You've got two different cup holders here, storage right here with the door pockets that are actually deeper than they probably look on screen. You've got a mat pocket here on the passenger side. You also have cup holders and an armrest you can fold down here. Let's talk a little bit about what you'll find here in the front seat. Of course, you've got all the controls here on the driver's side door, including the button to open your gas door. If you're wondering where that is on a Passport, well, that's where it is. You don't just push the door to open it, which is a good safety feature. That way it's always locked. It is capless fuel fill, and that's why you have that little gray funnel in the back next to the spare tire in case somebody runs out of gas with their Passport and has to use a gas can to put gas back in to get back on the road. You put that funnel in, and that just makes it a lot easier to take care of an issue like that. One thing I do like here in the front seat that you won't find in the rear is the fact that you have one touch down and one touch up on the driver and passenger doors as far as the power windows go. You do have power windows in the rear, but you have to hold the button down and up to raise and lower the windows. Not a big deal. Just a nice feature I thought I would point out. Nice instrument cluster, looks pretty modern to me at least. I think it's easy to use, easy to read and navigate your way around through the steering wheel mounted controls. And if you're feeling somewhat sporty, of course, you can change your driving mode and use the shifter paddles here on the steering wheel. And there's other reasons why you may potentially want to do that. And one thing that I like, every single Passport on every single trim level, well, come to think of it, every vehicle on every trim level has this lever on the left-hand side of the steering wheel that's called a turn signal lever or stalk, and you use that when you're changing lanes. You push it up. Hear that sound, that clicking sound? That means the right side blinkers are on. Or you push it down for the left when you're changing lanes to the left or changing lanes to the right or turning or whatever you're doing. That way it's kind of a novelty of sorts, I guess, at least here in Shreveport, Louisiana. You let people around you know what you're doing when you're driving. Anyway, got to throw a little bit of humor in there. Maybe I should do a turn signal tutorial for those who don't know. Steering wheel mounted controls, easy to use. You've got everything here for adaptive cruise control, which, by the way, under 20 miles an hour, that doesn't work. A lot of people complain about that. I don't think you really need adaptive cruise control at a low speed like that. So just something to stop and consider. I don't think someone's going to say, well, if I can't use adaptive cruise control under 20 miles an hour, well, then I probably don't want to buy a Passport. I don't think anybody's ever said that. And as far as the infotainment screen goes, again, nothing new for 2021/2022. That means it's still super simple to use, super effective. And when it comes to the rear view camera, you have a multi-view camera back there, especially that third view that I'm showing you on the screen right now. Maybe you're kind of concerned that you might back into something. That gives you a really great view of what's right behind you, right pretty much underneath the bumper or behind the bumper. If you're worried about hitting the curb or something back there behind you, that just makes things so much easier. Push button start as well as the push button shifter right here. Tell me what you think about that. There are varying opinions from people on the push button shifter system in different vehicles. And for the chance to win a Vehicle Visionary t-shirt, I know this isn't a Honda on here, it is a C8 Corvette, but what other vehicle has a very similar push button shifter in it to what we see here in the Passport? I'll give you a hint. It's not a Honda that I'm talking about. And your drink holders there, connectivity here in front of that area. You've got a USB port and a 12-volt power outlet, and also inside of the center console, the same thing. So you've got two of each. And a pretty deep, spacious console. You could probably fit a good 6 to 8 Vehicle Visionary t-shirts, folded just right, depending on your size, down in there. So now that we've taken a quick look at what we have here in the front seat and the rest of the interior and exterior, let's get out on the road and find out how that 280 horsepower V6 gets the Passport down the road. Okay guys, let's hop out on the road for our test drive. And a couple of things that I want to make sure I cover that I didn't cover during the earlier portion of the video. You do have a fully adjustable tilt and telescopic steering wheel. It's manually adjustable, but it is fully adjustable, so that's always useful. So, what about ride quality? This is going to be a good test right here. You can't necessarily tell, but this little area of road we're about to drive on is, well, kind of typical to what we have around here in Louisiana. Not the smoothest you'll ever ride on, and I do like how the Passport soaks up the bumps pretty well. It's a very comfortable ride, and something that's interesting, kind of an interesting little side note to comfort in a vehicle. I hope this makes sense to everybody. You can have a comfortable ride quality, but seats themselves that are not so comfortable. Or it can be the other way around. The seats are comfortable and the ride quality isn't, so it almost kind of cancels each other out in one way or another. That's not the case based on my experience in the Passport. You have a good, comfortable ride quality. You also have good, comfortable seats as well. Now, these are cloth seats, but still very comfortable. Obviously will be easy to take care of. And just overall, everything is very easy to get to. And like I said earlier, don't ever let the technology of modern day vehicles scare you away from buying a new vehicle. Eventually, well, you're probably going to have to do that before it's over with. And so that's just kind of the way it is. But it's not hard to learn. It's nothing scary, nothing like that. All of us have had to do it at one point, so don't let that scare you away. Now, we'll get out on the road here in just a second here. We'll let the traffic clear just a little bit more. We'll get out here. Don't have a lot of room for a good acceleration test, but I can tell you that the acceleration with the Passport is good and solid. And I showed you some of the features you can find by trim level earlier in the video. Obviously, that's going to make a difference on several things. Hey, check that out. We are in Shreveport, Louisiana. And remember what I talked about with those blinkers earlier? I guarantee you that SUV in front of us has the blinker option, no matter if it's a lower or higher trim level or whatever the case is. Maybe I should give the driver my card and say, hey, I'm going to do a tutorial to let you know how to use your blinker. Well, they used it that time. That's another thing I find very interesting. Sometimes they use it, sometimes they don't. Anyway, back to your regularly scheduled program. I got to make sarcastic remarks about the things I see people doing when I'm out driving on these test drives. But overall, everything, I really like this. I believe that this model is still a great contender, even though you're not going to get a refresh for 2022. It'll be interesting to see what Honda does for 2023 when the Passport does get a refresh. But overall, I must say, it's an enjoyable vehicle to drive, easy to see out of. That's always a good thing. It's a plus, that's for sure. And with all of the safety features and the driving aids and all that kind of stuff, of course, it helps that much more. We're gonna hop over here. I'm using my blinker as I change lanes. You hear that? You can hear the indicator clicking away. But as we come to a stop here, one thing I will say, the brake pedal itself is a little bit soft, but that can actually be a good thing, because that way it's not hard to get used to necessarily, unless you're coming from a vehicle with an overly aggressive braking system. But even though the brake pedal feels a little bit soft, that doesn't mean the brakes themselves are weak. Now, the speed limit in this area is 55 miles an hour. You can see it right there, so no complaints. But I'm going to accelerate a little bit here. Yeah, definitely not a problem. I mean, we're at 55 right there without really trying very hard. I was at about quarter throttle to do that. And by the way, how does the gas pedal respond? Well, that's also nice and responsive to the touch of your foot. I know a lot of people may not think about those kind of things when they're out driving a car or test driving a car, but if you ever get in a vehicle that has a mushy brake pedal or an overly aggressive brake pedal, or maybe the gas pedal isn't as responsive to the touch of your foot as you'd like for it to be, you're going to understand why I bring these kind of things up in a test drive. That's why it's always good to test drive vehicles before you buy them. So, is the 2021/2022 version of the Passport still a contender? Well, in my book, I would definitely say yes. And for those of you who might disagree, down in the comments, tell me why. Curious to know. Got to say a special thanks to my friends here at Holmes Honda for loaning me this model for the day, and all of you for being kind enough to watch and give me the opportunity to give you a vision for your next vehicle. I look forward to seeing you in my next video. Bye-bye.